unknown DJ who was a program director here at the club. He had found some mixes out of New York, brought them to LA, and we played them in the club. They were cool, but the music was different. As a DJ, I was radio trained. I went to a broadcast school and learned how to DJ from a radio perspective. I learned something called the roller coaster. And basically what it is, you start off kind of slow and you build up. And as you build up, you bring it down. And as you do that, you bring it around again. You can control your crowd through your music. Being a DJ from the age of 19, we had to play all night long. I come from a different era, okay? I come from an era where you had to carry 12 crates of records. You had to carry 4 Cerwin Vega speakers. You had to carry a rack of BGW amps. Everything was heavy. 1200s weigh about 15 pounds a piece. You got 2 of them, an EQ and a rack. You got Cerwin Vega speakers. These big son of a guns about this tall. They weigh about 50, 60 pounds a piece. We didn't carry laptops and self-powered speakers and could play a mix. Some of you son of bitches is cheating. Y'all cheating. You ain't fooling nobody, okay? I'm a real motherfucker. No, I ain't never scratched in my life. I swear to God, I ain't never scratched. I blend, I don't scratch. I don't have to. Dre was a young cat on this very stage right here, a young guy on this very stage. And like I tell you, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't bring him up here. How he got it, I don't even know. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna keep it real, okay? I don't know how Dre got on my turntable.
Dr. Dre is a master. We've heard of others doing it, but nobody does it like Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre, show them the triple threat is.
I let him in the club, but I didn't give him permission to go on the turntables, and he did. And all I know is when he got through performing, everybody in the club has stopped. While he was doing his Postman Planet Rock mix, everybody in the club stopped. It was funky. I'm like, why everybody dancing? Everybody looking at him, okay? And, you know, I never heard that before.
One station under a groove.
Get yours now while they last.
Get details from your record store or listen to the radio.
One station under a groove. WEFUNK. We Funk Radio, playing that old school R&B, soul, and funk. We Funk Radio.
What's going on, everybody? DJ Dr. Funkenstein here from Uncle Jam's Army, and we're about to give you one hellified ride aboard the Holy Mothership. Now, this is about on how the West Coast got their hands on hip-hop. Yeah, we already know it rises from the East, but it's set from the West. You feel me? But right now, we're gonna go to my homeboy, Black Dot, and he's gonna start it off and let you know what's jumping off when it comes to that hip-hop culture. Hey, I'll get back with you in a minute. I'm aboard the Holy Mothership in the lab, y'all. See y'all in a few.
Peace. My name is the Black Dot, author of the underground classic book, Hip Hop Decoded, from its ancient origins to its modern day matrix. I was born in the boogie down Bronx, 3 blocks from Cedar Park, where hip hop started, And 3 blocks away from 1520 where Herc started it all. And as a young man, as a young child, I was able to go to these jams in the park and watch this magic take place between these brothers and sisters who were bringing this energy to the streets and to the world called hip hop. Now, remember, back in the 70s, New York looked like a bomb had been dropped on it, especially in the boogie down Bronx. It looked like Vietnam, shattered buildings everywhere and things of that nature. Police corruption, crime, everywhere. So what we did was, and they took the music out of the classrooms. All right, music is innate within us. Music is spiritual. We need music like we need water and food. So once they took them out of the classrooms, we had to create a new form of music called hip hop. So we put cardboard down and we would dance. Or we got spray paint cans when they wouldn't let us draw on their canvases, and we went and painted the cities. When they took the drum away from us, and the drum is critical. Even on slave plantations, they would ban that drum because when we began to play that drum, slave masters' heads was rolling in the fields. So we found a new creative way to suspend the breakbeat between 2 turntables. You know what I mean? And the oracle, the MC, the speaker was been around for years. We called it the dozens. People was doing that, and the last poets. But when we added a certain rhythm to it, we added a certain so-called swag to it, the convergence of these elements became what we call today hip hop. Now, just the MC, we call that rap, but all the elements together is hip hop culture.
Of course, hip hop is a culture. And if I was to define hip hop using what Bambaataa, Zulu Nation gave us, using what the founding fathers of hip hop has given us, along with what Minister Server taught us from KRS-One's camp, the temple of hip hop. Minister Server says hip hop is higher infinite power healing our people. Higher infinite power healing our people.
Hip hop is ancient, hip hop is antique, hip hop is expansive, hip hop is exponential. Hip hop is more than just the 4 elements. It's culture, it's our essence, it's the manifestation of energy. As long as we've been here, hip hop has been here.
I was hip hop since the first day I heard it. Loved everything how it was worded, connected. They seen it in the park. I'm supposed to be home by dark.
The 4 major elements of hip hop are graffiti, MCing, DJing, and b-boying or dance. The Bronx made it happen. DJ Lovebug Starsky coined the term hip-hop, and the creation of the culture came out of the Bronx block parties in the 1970s. But the genesis of the movement really started on the West.
Now out here in the West Coast, our timeline starts at a different point. Our first element of hip-hop is dance, and it starts at Trade Tech College in 1969 when a guy named Don Campbell invents a dance called locking.
When we look at the elements of hip-hop have always existed. So when we look at the b-boy and the many different aspects of the b-boy, we know that b-boying has been taking place here in Los Angeles long before 1973.
When he invents that dance, things start to snowball that create this big party scene out here that's composed of street dance, DJing, party promoters, rocking the mic, and all this stuff that we associate with hip hop. Only we didn't know that some guys in New York were now at this point calling this thing hip hop.
Thought travels at 24 billion miles per second. So when we doing something, our brothers on the West are mimicking, and what they're doing, we're mimicking.
But we start to get information when people's relatives from back east come to visit us out here. We start to find out about this thing called hip hop, and then pretty soon they're showing it on That's Incredible and other national TV shows. And then we look at these guys out here and these women out here doing this thing called hip hop, and the first thing that we think when we find out what it really is, oh, they're doing the same thing we're doing.
In the late 1960s, 70s, and 80s, Los Angeles was the place to be. Land of the funk, the flashy, flicks, black exploitation film, and black power. It was the end of the civil rights era. There was white flight, that large-scale migration of people of Anglo descent leaving the urban areas to the safer suburbs. LA was changing, becoming more diverse, and the LA party scene was on fire.
At this particular time in the early mid-70s and into the early 80s, people in various communities were kind of rebelling against the norm when it came to music and what they wanted to hear and what they wanted to do as young people.
Everything was set off by the DJs. The kids were moving and grooving to punk, funk, soul, and even disco. Teens on the West Coast danced to disco-influenced electronic music, later to be called electro-hop. Hip-hop emerged as a direct response to the popularity of disco music. The earliest hip-hop was mainly based on James Brown and funk loops. Then, disco instrumental tracks became the basis of most hip-hop music. They began calling it disco rap. Now, Black Dot said it best. Hip-hop isn't just music. Hip-hop is a culture, it's organic, and it has substance. Naturally, the younger generation gravitated to it. As the newer generations came along, hip-hop helped with the decline of disco. There were many party promoting crews back in the day.
We had Lonzo, we had the Wreckin crew.
We had Z-Cars.
We also had Bay 5 Side out of Westchester.
We have Party Line Promotions.
Only person that was out there doing stuff for teenagers was John Carter, JC Productions. JC2 started the promotion business. It was 75, 76, it became LSD.
And we had all these other cliques that tried to,
There were several crews trying to do different things.
It was just a whole lot of smaller cliques back then. I'm not even gonna use the term clique, I'm gonna say crews, that we were all trying to get the club scene going.
The ones who got the recognition were the ones who threw the best dances.
We all were promoters. That was the hustle of the day. Everybody passed out flyers, everybody hired a DJ, got a room, passed out flyers, did their thing.
But there was one standout clique that became the most infamous crew on the West Side.
The OG West Coast freestyle star and Uncle Jam's Army.
In 1974, Roger Clayton, a young entrepreneur from Los Angeles, started a party promoting crew with his friends. The crew was called the Nighttime Players.
Roger Clayton is one of the founding members of Uncle Jam's Army.
Like I said before, Uncle Jam's Army was just a spin-off from Egyptain Entertainment, spin-off from Nighttime Players.
Rodney, Charles Woods, and Roger had this thing they was doing called the Nighttime Players.
The Nighttime Players threw parties and events for high schoolers in and around Harbor City, a suburb of Los Angeles. Before the Nighttime Players, Roger Clayton was a DJ for LSD. He worked for an event for LSD and got paid with a bad check. And that check made Roger become very creative with his business. Roger started his own thing and declared war on all party promoters in Los Angeles.
We all started in 1974, just changed members, changed names during the course of the 70s.
I really became a part of Uncle Jam's Army. The way that I got introduced to Roger Clayton, his sister Adrian and my sister went to high school together.
How it all started with me was that in 77, I was in the 10th grade at Northbound High.
Roger lived in Harbor City where we went to school at Northbound High School.
Roger and Gid was getting ready to leave Northbound. Rodney and Mr. Charles Woods, they were going to Westchester.
Let's go around the corner to visit other friends, and he was there. We got together and started, doing house parties.
Roger started throwing house parties.
Then we went from house parties. What happened was, I was just kind of home from the military for a break. I was at home, going to have my breakfast. I was sitting at the table, and the phone rang. And it was him. He said, hello? Hey, Charles, is Roger. What you doing? So I'm bringing some breakfast. I'm gonna ask him to see if it's okay. So ask what you want to ask me. I want to start doing dances. I said, well, what's wrong with house parties? Because they don't pay no money. Big money's in dances.
The house party went to the garage party.
I said, okay, what we want to do? We're going to keep the same name? He said, no, we're going to change the name. So change the name to what? I don't know. You got any ideas? I said, nope.
Time was going by and...
So I got a name. I said, what's your name?
It was Unique Dreams Entertainment.
I got quiet. He said, is that okay? Is that okay? I said, yeah, that's fine.
In 1977, Roger Clayton created Unique Dreams Entertainment with Gid Martin, Charles Woods, Charmaine and Charlene, myself, Dr. Funkenstein, Bleeps, a.k.a. the infamous Sir Jam, Dr. Rock, Rodney Garner. Roger Clayton called himself the Ace of Dreams, then Mr. Prince.
Yeah, what's your name gonna be? I said, if your name is Ace of Dreams, I can be Mystic.
I'm DJ Dr. Funkenstein of Unique Dreams Entertainment and Uncle Jam's Army. I started in 1977.
I was a behind the scene kind of person.
Us being first ladies, I think we added a lot of influence, brought in a lot of
versatile. I handled the people. I handled the crowd flow. I handled the money. I distributed flyers.
So I can draw the flyers. Back then I was an artist. I draw the flyers. So I do the flyers, and we're doing a trial run. So we had our first party was at the Hawaiian Gardens in the rec center.
Me, myself, I didn't like working the front. I wanted to be on the floor, dancing, getting the people into the groove of the music.
Rodney kept telling me about, they was giving dances, went to a few of their house parties, and they wanted me to join in.
Word of mouth, getting, venues ready, just getting it all set up.
Nice turnout. We weren't satisfied with that. He said we'd do more promotion, get our name out there a little harder. I said, okay, no problem with that. But I knew it would take money. He worked at a record shop, we were making that much money, but he was fulfilling this dream and this passion being around music. But he had a vision.
You had to take it out of your backyard. You had to take it out of your basements. We needed a bigger venue to bring people together. And everybody came together pretty much as a collective and just had a really good time.
We started off to where we wanted to give dances to where people could have fun.
Nothing to do on weekends, the football games, and after a while it gets kind of, when that's over with, then, what you gonna do after the games? Yeah. Usually start off with an after party from the games, and on Fridays, and that's how the house party started.
People were partying, that was good. I went up on the DJ booth, not too many people up there messing up the flow because I know that DJs have to have their space. I remember Roger, Bobcat did a little bit.
On the turntable, that was Roger Clayton, Bleep, the good Dr. Funkenstein. They did that.
Rodney had came to me. Rodney said, yo, Dad, Roger was asking me to ask you, man, we need your help. I kept putting it off, but when that third time came, that last time, all of a sudden Rodney said, yo, Dad, this is the last time Roger told me to ask you this. He said he really do need you, and he want to know, can you come up to Sojourner Truth with me Saturday night at that time? Went back to Rodney and I said, all right, man, what all do I have to do? Rodney said, well, first, gotta let you, talk to Roger. So he said, get your best dress on, and we rolling out that following Saturday.
The clothing was basic. It was basic.
Everybody was wearing 501 jeans.
501s, Chucks, t-shirt, button down.
They were still wearing naturals back then. The girls still wearing cornrows. We was also wearing the bomber jackets.
If you were going to a club, you wore a button down, some slack, Stacy's, something of that nature.
Ace Juice with the matches on the side. That was crip style. That was my thing.
I mean, you put it down, you hold on, you want to respect, you got respect.
Our pants were fitting. Doesn't hang up your butt. You have to be sharp in your biscuits and your denim and your pressed out t-shirts. You pressed, gotta have creases in them. And back then, parties were more dressy and who can dress the best type of thing. As opposed to now, they don't give a damn.
So we rolling down Crenshaw, and all of a sudden, we come up to Sojourner Truth, and it was a line, okay? And I'm like, man, is this what y'all doing? Rodney said, man, you ain't seen nothing yet. I'm walking through people and everything, and I see a few folks from the neighborhood. All of a sudden, as soon as I get into the dance floor area, it was packed to the T. When I walked in, Roger was playing Get Off Your Ass and Jam by Funkadelic. Everybody was partying, okay? I seen Roger, and he was in this like cafeteria area, and all I seen was one Marantz receiver. That's right, you heard me, I said Marantz. One Garage turntable, and 2 Marantz speakers. Roger looked up, he was like, hey Dave, what's up, man? Man, you made it, man. Yo, man, come on in the back, man, come on. So I'm watching Roger DJ. How is he doing this on one turntable? So what he did was this. Remember back in the day when your sister used to give a party at the house and you had one of those stereo component sets along with the TV, and you open up the top of it and you had the arm and you stick the 45s on the little needle? Roger had that on his garage turntable. So he had the albums instead of 45s, and then the rest of them he had them on the side of the turntable. As soon as the record is over with, he'll snatch the needle off that record. If it drops, he will know exactly where to put it for the next song with no you know, mess ups and everything. I mean, he did it precise, and people were still dancing. I'm sitting back going, oh, now this is what I'm talking about, and people was jamming. Now, we didn't even have a microphone.
Yeah, you had to holler.
Okay, I'm serious. That was the beginning of me with Unique Dreams Entertainment. Unique Dreams mainly played funk and disco records at their functions. But when Sugar Hill Records released their first rap record in 1979, they started playing hip-hop. That same year, Unique Dreams Entertainment changed their name to Uncle Jam's Army, the name inspired by the Funkadelic album, Uncle Jam Wants You. And when it became Uncle Jam's Army, everybody all over knew who we were. And especially when it came to giving a dance, you know, when it came to our radio shows and stuff like that, passing out flyers, people would even know it before we even, you know, give it to them. They already know. So, man, we already know we coming.
Back in the 70s, the very first at Alpine Village.
You know, DJ, Pop Locker, you know what I mean? Uncle Jam's Army is where it was at, you know?
My sister, Stephanie, was telling me about Uncle Jam's Army.
Way back in 79. When we was working the door, getting tickets and everything. I was back there. Those were the days.
And I said, what is Uncle Jam's Army?
Your mama was dropping you off at the club.
She's like, no, come, everybody goes. It's a big dance, you know.
They became the major party promoters in Los Angeles.
When I heard of Uncle Jam's Army and these kind of groups, that particular sound didn't stop me from partying and dancing.
We walked off in there, and I had never in my life seen that many kids there for DJs.
You rolling? Uncle Jam's Army.
I'd had to be like 8,000 or 9,000 kids, and it was DJ.
I remember all the good things. I remember Egyptian Lover.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, I remember him.
Gotta thank my man, Greg, for coming through. Man, appreciate it, my bro.
Yeah.
He know it. How did you start coming to Uncle Jam's Army dances?
Man, it was all for the ladies. I went to a lot of parties around LA at that time. Went to the Eve After Dark. Got a flyer for a Unique Dreams party. Went to one of those. Love that. We went to every party. Z-Cars.
Oh man,
LSD.
Z-Cars, yeah.
I went to all the parties. But the songs that Uncle Jam Army was playing was better than everybody else's songs. I mean, they were playing some stuff I never heard before, some funk, and I was just like, yeah, I like this is my kind of party. Everything they're playing, I like every single song. I gave a dance myself.
Okay.
Get down on it. And put posters all down Slauson, Crenshaw, and some of the hot spots.
Mm-hmm.
All the posters got snatched down. Uncle Jam Army posters was where my posters was. So I knew I could DJ, but I didn't have the crowd. So we're like, dang, I just knew, you know, it was gonna come. But from my high school came, some girls came, you know.
Oh yeah.
It was cool, but it wasn't Uncle Jam.
Okay.
So I was in the mall, like, I can't make no money like this. You know, I barely made my money back. And Roger was passing out flyers.
Right.
And Snake Puppy. Me and Snake Puppy actually used to
make.
make.
Snake Puppy, okay.
We used to make mixtapes together.
Oh, okay.
Before he was with LA Dream Team and.
With Dream Team, yeah.
So him and I was making mixtapes together, doing raps on them and stuff like that. Roger passed out flyer and Snake Puppy said, man, Roger, you guys get the best dance production crew in LA, but you don't have the best DJ. He said, my boy here is the best DJ. And Roger knew who I was from the parties, dancing and stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't know I was a DJ. He was like, you can DJ? I'm like, yeah. He said, come with me. So I jumped in the Z. We went to make a commercial for the next dance.
Right.
And I was queuing up the Zap. They're spinning back.
Spinning, yeah.
And I was just doing that, right? And I said, what is that? I said, oh, they call it scratching.
Because you had already knew about scratching before us.
Because I bought a record from Grandmaster Flash. And he did Wheels of Steel. I did a commercial with Roger.
Okay.
And then he said he's going to have a DJ contest.
Right.
And it was a Long Beach Holiday Inn.
Mm-hmm.
So I showed up, and there was 5 people in line, and they threw me on first. I couldn't even pick the record I wanted to mix. They gave me Aretha Franklin's Jump to it. Aretha Franklin is not a song you want to play at an Uncle Jam Army party. So I said, okay, I'm going to keep this beat going with these loud speakers. It should sound okay.
Right.
I'm thinking this as I'm hearing the song for the first time in my headphones. So I throw it in. Then I put the other one on, I throw the beat in. I just kept mixing the beat over and over again. Then I took the jump. Jump, jump, chicka jump. And then I hit the beat again. And people stopped dancing. So I kind of peeked up and I saw people coming towards the turntables. I'm like, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, because I'm supposed to make them dance.
Right.
But they're not dancing, they're watching. What the hell is he doing? So Roger ran up and says, who's doing that? And they pointed to me. He was like, oh man, that's good. What record you want? And I'm like, dang. Then they have Time Club, okay. It's Nasty, and I named all these songs. 3 other DJs turned around and just left. They ain't want none of it. I had a chance to become a DJ with Uncle Jam's Army. You know, I grabbed it by the horn and just did my best, and man, the rest is history.
We wanted to be number one, and we became to be number one on the West Coast.
Our main competition we started, we changed from Interest Entertainment to Uncle Jam's Army. Our main competition, our main goal was to outdo LSD. They was the top ones in the city.
See, we're the unsung heroes. We're the ones that was faced first in the trenches, you know, from not only just hanging posters, but passing out flyers.
That really has to be understood. That has to be recognized. Uncle Jam's Army is the foundation of West Coast hip hop. Without those flyers being handed out, without those posters being hung, there wouldn't be an Uncle Jam's Army. Without Uncle Jam's Army, there would be no West Coast hip hop.
Stop snitches.
Oh man, the poster wars.
When we formed Uncle Jam's Army and we started going
who hung up the posters?
We got it.
Back in the day, our main source of advertising was posters.
Before it was a street team.
This was a dog-eat-dog enterprise.
The posters cost then like $1 a piece. We had our own standing order with our own custom colors.
Somebody's advertising, we're advertising.
That's how significant it was to have posters.
Who would put those posters up?
Roger and David. I never did.
Roger, you know, press up the flyers.
Roger started taking us out of his van.
At the big old van, okay, we got hammers in there. Y'all get up and we load the van up.
We had to go out and hang them at midnight. Be up all night long, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, hanging them up.
2, 3 in the morning, we putting up posters all down Crenshaw.
We climb the pole.
Every other pole, like on the street.
This pole, that pole, it's an intersection.
The telephone poles, you just get out there, blah, blah, blah.
Right. And then overnight, you know, we would just blanket the whole city with the next function of Uncle Jam's.
Get up in the morning, going to school, whatever, you on a bus, look at you, just see our name.
That was Instagram back then, we overnight.
Any street you went down, it was everywhere.
When I went down the street, I would tear them off just to keep in memory and put them on the walls in my room. My mother would come in there and say, no,
We was out there, we had it covered.
We was promoting, that's how we got out there to promote.
The footwork.
Get out the car on the street, take it down, put it on my wall. Every time we had an event, I would take it out.
Then during the day, like when school let out, he would have other people passing out it looked just like the poster, but it was flyers.
We didn't have to put up the posters, but we did pass out flyers.
The little flyers, I used to love the flyers. Go to the Fox Hills Mall, Hawthorne Mall.
It would be somebody at every corner of every school.
Venice Beach, just everywhere.
All through LA, passing out the Uncle Jam Army flyers.
You know, and then at that time, it was Lester and Muff was out there in Antelope Valley. You know what I'm saying? So they come from there, Lancaster, Palmdale, all the way down to the hood, from South Central, Compton, Long Beach, Inglewood.
We would meet up at his house, or he'd come get us if we didn't have a ride here. The van would pull up, we'd jump in the back, go over here on Main and Imperial. We'd go in there to pick up the flyers, and the guys still being there, the printing press just going, shooting out posters, not flyers, like big old huge posters, the printing press just bam, 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 knocking them out. It was 3 vans. He'd say, you guys go to this street, you guys go to that street, we're going over here. Always 4 of us. Soon we jump out, everybody know what corner to go to. I'll go that one, he go that one, that one.
And we'll jump out, you know, because it was actually illegal. And, you know, you didn't want the police to see you.
Man, we can go far back as Christmas Eve one night. We was on the corner of Avalon and Redondo Beach Boulevard. We was hanging posters. We jumped out the car We was getting ready to put the posters up, had my hand up here, had the staple gun, and was getting ready to hit it. The next thing you know, we hear this. Come to find out, it was Carson sheriffs. Oh, they surrounded us, and they handcuffed us, and they just straight threw us in the car. Now, it was me, Sir Jam, and Clint, and we in the backseat handcuffed. So then when we in jail, they gave us one phone call. I called my parents. My parents got me out and everything, got bleeps out, and Clint too. So we was all out, and we had to go to court. The only people that came to court was me and Bleeps, Sir Jam. Clint didn't show up, okay? He didn't show up at all. We was waiting for the judge to come in. He comes and everything, and he had these glasses on, big, thick lenses, dude, I ain't gonna lie, okay? Haircut short and everything. He said, where's David Storms? I said, right here, Your Honor. And he said, where's Renee Williams? Sir Jam said, right here, Your Honor. He said, now where's Clint Jones? Not here, Your Honor, okay? So then he was reading down on the paper, and he said, arrested for hanging posters. And he looked at us, and he put his glasses down low like that, and he said, what were you guys doing? I said, Your Honor, all we was doing was hanging posters for a dance. So he started laughing. So then he stopped laughing, and all of a sudden he said, you know, I could send you guys to jail. Because, see, this is considered a slight form of soliciting. We was like, oh, okay, we understand. So then he said, I'm going to tear this up. He said, y'all go on and get out. I don't even want to see y'all again. He said, I understand what you're trying to do now. He said, but I don't want to see y'all in my court again. You hear me? We was like, yes, sir, Your Honor. And we turned around, and he said, you free to go. And we left. Now, time went on, and I did a little research, and come to find out that Judge Joe Brown was our judge. The Joe Brown of now, he was our judge at Compton Courthouse when we got arrested for hanging posters. And that was the Judge Joe Brown of his early days. And that just tripped me out.
You know, certain areas where we promote, Uncle Jam's Army just got big. We run the city. But then at the same time, there was other promotion crews, like even in San Fernando Valley, we would have wars with Starlight Promotions over here by Compton to be, you know, world-class Wreckin crew with Lonzo and then Dre and Yella and them.
The worst thing you could do if you wanted to start some shit was to stash somebody's poster down.
That's where the wars come in at.
I mean, we putting up our flyers. It's in LA, but it's like, no, this is our turf. And so, you know, we'll overnight, we'll just whoosh. We got our thing up, Labor Day jam, Uncle Jam's Army. Then we go back around and all of a sudden, phone ring. Yeah, you know, somebody else is Wreckin finna snatch your flyers down.
Nothing would piss you off more than to ride around the corner and come back and see somebody else was supposed to hang where yours was.
They said our flyers got snatched down or whatever. What snatched down? Who snatched down Uncle Jam's Army flyers? Oh, they tripping, it's on.
We hang posters, they snatch them. They have posters, we snatch them.
But hold on, it's a certain street code up in here, you know, in terms of the dance promotion game that you don't tear down the next man's flag. That's like graffiti.
And the dumb part about it, I never understood, why would you take my poster down and put yours up? Now I know you did it.
You don't tag over the next man's tag, and it's like, oh, that's a problem right there.
That's how poster wars would start.
I'll never forget, Roger was so mad. He was hot. He rallied up the troops, man. We piled up in cars, we on our way to do those. We on our way to skate. We on our way to Compton to holler at Lonzo and the world-class Wreckin crew for snatching down our thing. And it's like, hold on. So I remember going to bed. That was the first time I ever been to a Wreckin crew function. So at first I go in there hot. It's really finna be on a whole nother level. But we was so hot and turned up. Man, we don't give a damn. This is business. This ain't about that street shit. So anyway, we roll up in there. I'm listening to what's coming out the speakers. And I'm like, damn, them niggas is hard. They was DJing, it was Dre and Yella, and they was going back and forth and bam, bam, and back. You know, I'm like, obviously Uncle Jam was number one of these, man. I'm like, I understood, right then and at that moment, I understood why Wreckin crew was so well respected, because them cats was hard. Them cats was so vicious on them turntables. It was like, ooh, baby, we was throwing elbows like, man, listen, you hear what they doing? Like, damn, they might give us a run for our money. I mean, they up there with us, like, hold on. Lonzo was like, man, let me holler at you in my office. Just you. The rest of y'all, just you, Rod. Come on, man. Come on. Let me holler at you, man. Man, I don't know, man. I don't know, Rod. I don't know. You might be on the up to something. I don't know. I thought we had to understand it. And then I know they went in the room. And so we nervous because we don't know if it was a setup. And they might have had 1,000 men in the room. Man, what's taking so Rod, what do we? I mean, what's going on in there? So you see all these beautiful, confident females and all, man. So, we got a little distracted. Okay, hold on, what's happening? Door crack, they come out, they shook hands in front of everybody. Oh, okay. But we still look like, yeah. That still don't mean nothing. Don't do it again, homie.
Although there was never any bloodshed, some asses got whooped back in the day for messing with people's posters. In fact, I whooped a little ass myself. Okay.
But then at the end, it was like, you know what? Yeah, y'all function hard, y'all fun. They was like, yeah, y'all doing your thing too. Okay, next Uncle Jam, we at the sports, man. Y'all fall through, man.
I'm gonna holler. I want to get my boy over here. I'm gonna introduce you to the Hall of Famer, what I call around here.
I'm passing the constitutional law. We bring back the funk.
There it is.
The Declaration of Dickum.
No, it's called the Groove Allegiance. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, Groove Allegiance.
So Lonzo, please
sir.
bless these people in Netland who might be listening about just the history of this West Coast thing and how it got started.
You know what, man? It came to me about 2 years ago after Roger passed, Roger Clayton from Uncle Jam's Army. The whole West Coast was born out of a feud, dude.
At the height of Uncle Jam's Army's supremacy, Lonzo Williams started Disco Construction.
My name is Lonzo Williams, a.k.a. Lonzo, the world-class grandmaster, the West Coast godfather of hip-hop. My company was called Disco Construction, and Uncle Jam's Army, which was headed up by Roger Clayton. We started off as DJs together. We worked at a record distributor together. We weren't business partners. I was his first DJ for Unique Dreams Entertainment.
Roger and I worked together at a record company, at a record distributor. I was just starting to be a DJ.
Right.
I called this record distributor trying to buy records wholesale. The guy, his name also was Lonzo. He tried to get me to come get a job. Okay, I didn't want no job. I'm DJing full time. Okay, and this time I am one of the only DJs on the West Coast.
Right.
I met Roger earlier. I told Roger about the job. I got Roger the job at the distributorship. A few weeks later, they called me. They need somebody. Roger called me. They need somebody in the warehouse in the evenings. Well, I had a job at Kenny's Shoes, like the shoes in the daytime, which didn't up to my schedule for DJing at night. We roller skating in the warehouse, me and my brother, pulling records off the shelf, CGs and Instant Funk, whatever the case may be. And Roger started doing Alpine Village. Again, I'm the only cat in the city that has a sound system. So I rent the system. Roger would give me $100. I'm DJing and hauling equipment and hooking up lights. I'm getting $65, $70. The promoters is making $1,500, $2,000. That's a lot of money back then. After a short amount of time, I kind of felt like I was being pimped. Roger was one of the promoters I was just talking about. I'm hauling in speakers, I'm hauling in light, I'm doing smoke machines and fire and lights and sparkles on my head and construction lights. Back then, as a DJ, you had to put on a show. You just couldn't do a little scratching. Scratching wasn't out yet. So you had to be the MC, the DJ, the light operator, the roadie, and sometimes be the promoter. And at some point in time, I realized that's a lot of work for $150, and I started doing my own thing. I wasn't making no money, but I was getting my DJ Disco Lonzo on, okay? Right. So it wasn't no thing. Shortly after that, I met a friend of Gid Martin, a lady. She started backing me on doing promotions at Alpine Village. So I kind of stood off from Roger. I still worked with him, but I had my own thing. Well, one day my dad came into my room, and saw me counting a pile of money. It must have been about maybe $900 to $1,000. And my old man was a no-nonsense kind of cat. He didn't want me to get involved in nothing illegal. He like, where the hell you get all that money from? And I said, man, I got a DJ. He looked at me and said, ain't the much DJ in the world. Where'd you get your money from? I'm gonna kick your ass, okay? Straight out. He finna take me to the wall, right? I said, hold on. My dad saw me doing some things at Alpine Village, but he had a room. So I opened up a club called Eve After Dark right over another club called Jeffy's.
Lonzo and Disco Construction, they ruled the east side, while Roger and Uncle Jam's Army ruled the west side.
I started in 1979, June 11th, 1979, right here at Eve After Dark. Shortly after that, because of the popularity of the club, not because of any other reason other than we outgrew it, we moved around the corner to Dudo. Dudo's Music Center on the corner of 135th and Central. Here in 2000. After Dark is where hip hop here on the West Coast took off first and foremost. I was the first one to bring LL Cool J, Curtis Blow to California. My group, World Class Wreckin Crew, which featured Dr. Dre, DJ Yella, later of NWA fame, was all founded right here. We started right here. This is where hip hop started back in 1979.
In the heart of South Central LA, off 92nd and Western, was a place called The Workshop. The Workshop was home to Michael Calfani, aka Disco Daddy.
Yes, I'm Michael Calfani, also known as Disco Daddy. And as far as West Coast hip hop is concerned, the story with me starts in 76. Actually, you can go back to 73 because I was a member of the Soul Train gang, the original group in which the Lockers came out of. That's where it started with me. I began working at a club called a Showcase in 1976. In the 70s, they had teenage clubs, a club where you could go out if you were 16 years old and party from 9 o'clock till 6 in the morning. A year later, the Showcase decided that they had no further need of Disco Daddy because he wanted to hire 3 DJs. And I was the only DJ all night. The security guards who worked for us had an owner of the company, security guard company, who had bought a building over on 91st and Western.
Mr. Brown bought that building. He turned into a club. So his son, a youngest son, Jeffrey, told me, because me and Jeffrey went to high school together.
He decided he was going to open up a nightclub. And they said, well, if you're going to have a successful nightclub, you need Disco Daddy.
He also bought my dad's spot. He got a spot over on Western called Workshop. I said, Workshop?
One weekend I'm at the Showcase. The next weekend I'm at the Workshop.
What kind of workshop is it? Is it educational or? So no, it's a club, So okay. So I went by there, check it out. And that's when I met Disco Daddy.
I did not know that I had a following at that time. I knew I was popular. But when I left the Showcase and I went to the Workshop, everybody who was going to the Showcase came to the Workshop. So there was the first real incident of DJs actually knowing that people would follow them from one place to another.
I introduced myself to him and everything. We talked for about 25, 30 minutes. Took the place out. It's pretty nice. Okay, check it out.
The Workshop was another teenage disco, 18 and under. We didn't serve any alcohol or anything like that. And it was party all night long. Now, during that period in 77, from what I learned from Charles Woods, the co-founder of Uncle Jam's Army with Roger Clayton, that him and Roger, Charles used to come to the Workshop, and he started bringing Roger.
So I think about a month later, I told Roger about it. I said, you know, Jeffrey's dad got a club over here called Workshop. He said, I heard about that. Let's go check it out, man, because, just check out Jeffrey's spot. So, okay, let's go check it out. Got in the car, went over there, walked in. Said, this is not bad. So Mike was there, so I just mic'd him.
So Roger was standing there, like again, I didn't know him at the time. But this guy was watching me, and I was doing my thing. And then he came over after a few minutes. He said, "Hey, how you doing? My name is Roger. I'm a DJ too." And we became friends.
And from that point, the rest is history. They became good friends, and they started doing things together. And he started putting his albums out, and It's a local connection.
Disco Daddy wrote and recorded the very first West Coast rap record, Gigolo Rap, with Captain Rap in 1981.
I had left DJing and become a rapper. I had a rap record out. And when I released the rap record in 81, I was the first DJ to go to that level. Again, New York, DJs were making records and had been making records since the beginning of hip hop. But out here, it was a new thing. There were other people cutting records, but the radio stations weren't playing it. Right. So what was very important about this record was that not that it was just the first rap record from the West Coast, it was the first rap record that the radio stations decided they would want it to play, that could hang with the East Coast rap.
Now at that time, entire rap albums were not really popular. Rap acts from the East had singles on the radio. Nobody on the West had one. Disco Daddy was about to change that.
Everybody, don't you know it's time to party? Everybody, don't you know it's time to party? Oh, who's this, y'all? Oh, who's that? I said it's Disco Daddy and Captain Rap. We're gonna take it to the windows, gonna take it to the wall, gonna rock till the sweat roll down your drawers. Now it's Disco Daddy and Captain Rap. We're not just faces in the crowd. We're the leaders of the...
Could you please tell us your real name and how you got your new name?
My name is Michael, and I was inspired to name myself Disco Daddy. I got my first job in a disco out here around 76 when the whole thing was starting to take off. And at the same time, the lady I was going with, she had gotten pregnant, and I decided this is my first baby and my first job in a disco, Disco Daddy.
This gave me a chance to go out and go to other clubs, but the DJs told me, come on in and rap for a few minutes, man. So I started for a period of a year, just going out rapping for free. Every club I went to, I turned it out because people simply had never seen rapping. It wasn't that I was all that good or anything, they just was fascinated by somebody who could do that. I had a friend of mine who was also a force, he's deceased now in hip hop. Make sure his name is always mentioned. And that's Michael Mixon Moore, along with him and Magic Mike, who's also another force in the early hip hop. Mike spun off into one of the early party promoters also. He was a party promoter, but then he started doing DJ gigs for celebrities. In 81, I got into a bad contract situation after my master was sold to a slime ball named Joey Jefferson, Gas City Records. Never paid us. The contract was so messed up that I was glued to him for 7 years contractually. Motown called Captain Rap and I up to Motown Studios. We couldn't even sign with Motown because we were in a bad contract situation. So I had sort of left the rap game and I didn't know what I was going to do. In the meantime, what was happening was that, like I said, other DJs had picked up the ball and started to run with it.
We were making records, we were making bootlegs 1981, 82, okay? They were called Z-Rocks. Now, understand, you could not get a record deal. We were shopping record deals in 83, 84, okay? But you couldn't get a record deal on hip hop. One, nobody thought hip hop was gonna be around, okay? Two, all the major record labels were and still are housed back east in New York. Duffy Hooks, Cletus Anderson were the only guys that I knew of that had record making ability. When Disco Daddy signed to I think he signed to Rapper's Rap, which I think was Duffy Hooks, okay? Yeah, he was the first one to go on record as a rapper, but we were amongst the first ones to have our own labels.
Started hearing, I think, Toddy T, Uncle Jam's Army, Arabian Prince. They started Freak Beats Records.
Myself, LA Dream Team, Egyptian Lover. Anybody that wanted to have a record deal on the West Coast, you had to give it to yourself. I was a founder of Crew Cut Records, one of the first guys on the West Coast to make a record along with Duffy Hooks, Cletus Anderson, my boy Roger Clayton, Unknown DJ. My niche in the music industry was I brought West Side to the East Side. Born and raised in Compton, and what I would do, I would go out, as I got around the city, I would see different things, whether it be in Hollywood, West LA, and I'd bring them back to the hood. And that's always been my forte.
It's your boy Clientele, aka DJ Clientele.
My name is Shakespeare, better known as the Poet of Love.
I was a mobile DJ. My company was called Disco Construction. And I had some fellas that helped me carry my equipment. They were roadies. And one of my partners saw the guys tearing down the equipment one night from Alpine Village. He said, "Oh, you Disco Construction? Who was they, the Wreckin crew?" And I looked and I laughed and I'm like, that might be kind of cool. If you was a part of Eve After Dark, the Wreckin crew was like the Playboy bunnies were to the Playboy Club.
I was still in high school. Eve After Dark is in my neighborhood. Me and my buddies, we would go up there and kind of, get in there and dance and, talk to girls. And we heard my man Lonzo right here was talking about a contest, a rap contest. Me and my buddies at the time, we actually had a crew called Diamond Star Productions. And that was me and DJ Joe Cooley, Nick, Carlos. We would go around, we had our own little DJ crew, but we go around Compton and, we do like house parties and parks, wherever we play and stuff. And my main role, even though I was a DJ, I also was, I was a rapper of the crew. So when Joe would mix, I would hype him up and we would get the crowd going and that kind of thing. Started getting a reputation. We heard Lonzo talking about a $100 rap contest. And so me and my boy like, yeah, we're gonna get in there, we're gonna win. So immediately I jumped in there and knew I had to get that crowd going. So once that crowd started going, once I got them, and boom, I started hitting them with them bars and ended up winning the contest. So after I won the contest, then my man here approached me about, joining, up with the Wreckin crew. I saw, I think Yellow was there, and Dre might have even been there. I think Dre had just joined the crew, like a week or so before that.
Wow.
And so me and Dre were friends in high school, in junior high school. That's the homie, we used to hang out together. So that's when I joined, and yeah, the rest was history, man.
How I came to become a member of the Wreckin crew, I was with another group that was called the Stereo Crew. Stereo Crew consisted of myself, Ice Cube, KD, and our DJ was Sir Tone, DJ Tone, Dr. Tone, who was actually Dr. Dre's cousin. We came to the attention of the Wreckin crew. Sir Jinx, or Tony, he was a roadie for the Wreckin crew. He approached them about coming to listen to his group. Dre came over and heard him, and he really wasn't interested in the group. What brought us to prominence was the radio station here, it's 1580 KDAY. They put on what was called a Best Rapper in the West contest. We entered the contest then. We won the semifinals, and at the finals, we took second place. Different record companies wanted us to sign us at that time, but Lonzo, during that time, as we were coming along, had already worked out a deal for the Wreckin crew. The deal was he was going to sign the Wreckin crew, and also he was going to sign the Stereo crew. Clientele ended up falling out the group prior to them actually signing the deal, and I was approached by Lonzo and Dre them about replacing Clientele, and so I ended up becoming Clientele's replacement. Doppelganger. Trying to fill his big shoes.
The inner circle of Eve After Dark, you had to be a part of the Wreckin crew, and later, when we started making records, we just took the name and transported it to the record label. But then we found out there was another group called the Wreckin crew out of Chicago. This was '84, and I kept hearing the term world-class runner, world-class swimmer. So I asked my lawyer, hey man, if I throw world-class and mess up the spelling, that make it work? He said, yeah, so that's what we did. That's how we got here, world-class Wreckin crew. We would consider ourselves a dance and romance group, okay? We were more known, we were more popular, we were just as popular for our slow records than we were our dance records. Fly, Cabbage Patch.
First record we put together was Slice.
It was kind of patterned after Run DMC's It's Like That.
We wanted to do a song that hyped up the DJ, and at that time, the prominent or premier DJ at the club was DJ Yella.
Yella laid the scratch down.
Lonzo asked me to write something.
Clientele went into the studio. True story, did it in one take.
Yeah, I think I wrote that maybe that day or the night before, and we went into the studio, and yeah, we did it in one take.
It cost me about $400 to make. We sold about, I think we went like glass, aluminum, maybe wood, I'm not sure, okay? But it put us in the game.
On the Juice 12-inch, we took a big chance because of what we did at the back of it.
Right.
We put all that.
2 turntables. Get the fuck out. Motherfucker say what?
When we did all of that stuff, we took a big chance on it, but because it was a 12-inch and we kind of spaced it out a little bit, DJs knew where to find it to cut it up. But yeah, you really couldn't use profanity or even the insinuation of it on a record.
Critics of hip-hop music said it wouldn't last 10 years. They said it was a fad and would fade out like disco. Almost 10 years to the date from the birth of hip-hop came the first radio station in the world to play hip-hop 24/7.
Hey, let's kick it on.
KDAY.
On the radio.
Hey, I'm Warren from Sugar Hill Gang. Got Big Bang Gang on some Sugar Hill thing. I remember back in the day with KDAY with Mack. KDAY was actually the first station that recorded rap. So
the original station that debuted West Coast hip hop.
Yeah, 1580 KDAY. I just remember KDAY in my childhood. As far as 1580 KDAY is concerned, it primarily is or was the blueprint for what many stations are attempting to do today. However, they're not doing it as well as KDAY did it.
It was pretty much doing morning drive, and trying to do radio differently. Everything was about, we're just gonna play the music and, laugh every once in a while. My contributions, I really tried to do radio differently, where I was trying to do like characters and things like that, impersonations, and just to do a different kind of brand of humor.
I remember KDAY. KDAY was on and popping.
It's one of those institutions that are with us. It's hip hop.
Nobody plays our type of music, Nobody plays authentic West Coast.
1580 KDAY means my entire career. Here's why. Because if Greg Mack does not play my song, My Swing On the radio with all the bad words, no edits, nothing, I never jump off.
1580 KDAY helped legitimize all of hip-hop. It's international now, but back then it was only in New York.
They actually played one of my singles. And I was like, cool, that's the first time I ever heard my song on the radio. KDAY.
It could have stayed regional, just like go-go music in Washington, D.C., just like house music in Chicago. It could have stayed on the streets of Skid Row. But 1580 KDAY was the first all 24-hour, all hip-hop format in the nation.
KDAY had epic skits. They had a comedy vibe. They had a hip-hop vibe. Really, they was just expansive in what they were doing. They were groundbreaking as far as the morning show is concerned. The type of things that they were doing in the mornings just was not being done. And the fact that they were playing majority hip-hop was also something that was groundbreaking in that time.
West Coast embraced hip-hop, East Coast hip-hop, and therefore the two biggest media markets, New York and LA, helped legitimize it.
When you home, you don't get that love. I've never heard one of my songs in New York, but I heard it out here.
Greg Mack had his hand in this miraculous feat.
My name is Greg Mack. I'm the guy that started the hip-hop radio world. I guess a lot of people say we were the first rap radio station. Actually, we were not the first station to play rap music. We were the first to play it all day long. When I first got to LA, KDAY was, near the bottom of the ratings. Had a meeting with Ed Kirby and Jack Patterson when I got there, and they said, Greg, you got any ideas and what we can do to pump this thing up and blah, blah, blah. Because I had just come from working at a station called Magic 102 in Houston and had a lot of, music knowledge. And I says, well, sure.
KDAY and Greg Mack is one of those situations that I try and tell youngsters all the time that it ain't about what you know, it's about who know you. I've been buying advertising for Eve After Dark, and I had a new sales rep. I told her what I was trying to do, and she said, you ought to come out and meet our new DJ. He's probably going to end up being the program director shortly.
I go to meet Greg Mack, and I meet Greg Mack, looking like Yosemite Sam.
Back then, he had a little curly Jerry curl.
The big yellow Cadillac, okay? Big old cowboy boots, big old Cadillac.
He was the man. He ran the show. He broke all the hits for him.
There was a lot of guys trying to get to Greg Soul because he could play the record. When he played the record, so many people heard it at one time.
Greg Mack was the first to use the phrase traffic jam. KDAY was an all-rap station, a reflection of the street, a station for the people.
When I first got to LA, I was trying to learn the streets because my style of programming has always been if you can control the streets, you can control the radio. When I first moved there, I lived in the heart of South Central. And all I had to do was, left my window up for a couple hours, and all I kept hearing was rap music. Everybody was bumping Run DMC at the time, or Sugar Hill Gang. I said, no radio station is really playing this stuff all day.
What he did for the rap community, he was really on top.
We also tried to take a lot of the local talent. If you had a record, you thought it was good, you could just come in and bring it to me.
And then Greg Mack said, you know what, man? I can bring these acts over there. What acts? How about Climax, New Edition, whoever, LL Cool J. I'm like, what? Sure enough, like clockwork, Greg is shooting me acts left and right. Every Friday, we got a new act.
I like to thank Greg Mack for being influenced by the music we play in our dances, because a lot of songs we played, the dances weren't played on the radio. When folks are calling the stations asking to hear certain records they didn't have, that made them influence them to go out and find a record playing on the radio, which gave a lot of folks who had no name a name.
I said, well, who is behind Uncle Jam's? Who is Uncle Jam? I wanted to meet Uncle Jam, And they led me to Roger Clayton.
We and Roger used to go to Record Depot and different record shops and just find rare 12 inches, folks we never heard before, and just buy it and go home and see how it sounds. If you don't like it, go trade it back. And the ones we kept, played the dances, get bumped, get rocked. Folks are calling racist and look for a certain record, so we don't know what you're talking about, we don't know what record it is. They'll call Roger, ask them who it is, they'll get the record, on the station, boom. Just keep rolling.
I talked to Roger, and I said, hey, Roger, man, how can KDAY be down with what you're doing in the streets, Because you got the streets on lockdown, man. I want to be a part of that. And Roger told me, he says, you know what? We don't need radio. We got the streets on lockdown. I went and talked to my boy Lonzo.
We hanging out in the Cadillac, and I tell Greg what I'm doing. And I just shut the Eve After Dark down, about to go to do those.
And I said, Lonzo, I want to start my own DJ group because I was upset that Uncle Jam's Army wouldn't let us get down with him. Lonzo said, you know what? I can get you a guy to mix for you on the radio because I wanted somebody to mix for me on the radio. And so I said, okay, well, send him on down. And so I met him, and it was Dr. Dre. And him and DJ Yella used to mix for me on my show. They were before the mix masters.
Greg heard some of my mixes, and he was like, dude, we can do this right here with these mixes. We can do the traffic jam. So now, check this out. Greg and I come up with an idea that you give me mixes for my traffic jam from Dre and Yella, and I'll give you a commercial before and after the traffic jam. No problem. And all this said, it was a 10-second commercial. Traffic Jam is brought to you by the world-class Wreckin crew. You can find them on the corner of 135th and Central every Friday and Saturday night. Before and after. That was all the advertising I need. Dudo stayed packed.
They mixed for me until they got so busy to where they just didn't have time to mix anymore. And that's when I started the Mix Masters to try and take down Uncle Jam's Army.
Greg wanted his own promotion company, right? He was trying to come up with a name for it. Okay, Uncle Jam's Army. Greg was gonna name his Max Marines. Remember that shit?
There's so many different people that Greg got kind of put on. And then I hooked up with like the Egyptian lover. And he did my first record with Bobby Jimmy. Yeah. So I started doing parodies, and that I had no idea, because I did it as a joke till I got my first check. And when the first check showed up, I'm like, oh, okay, wait, this is a business.
I mean, Dre, Snoop, all those guys, man, they really owe their career to Greg because he was really hit.
Every one of God's creatures dance. You see the birds? They be whistling and doing their thing. The trees, when they be swaying. The clouds, when the clouds dance with one another, they do their thing.
hip-hop birthed many dancing styles and techniques.
There's nothing wrong with participating in a culture that's yours. So if the WAP was out, radicals and revolutionaries would be foolish to say they didn't dance, they didn't do the WAP. The Pee Wee Herman, you didn't do some of these things that, you know, if you was trying to get the chick at the party or whatever, you better do something other than being hard in the damn corner. When it comes down to us, we so hard, we don't want to dance. Dr. Reverend Phil Valentine said, man, you ain't God unless you know how to dance.
Now, out of the West, we brought crump, jerkin, turfing, crip walking, clown walking, locking, and boogalooing. Locking was created by Don Campbell over at LA Trade Tech in 1969 and popularized by his group, The Lockers.
The name of the dance is called locking. You gotta understand what locking is. Locking means locking your joints. If I stop and lock, I'm locking my joints. If I stick my hand out, I'm still locking my joint. If I take my hand and throw it out, I'm still locking.
Pop locking came out, everybody was doing it. Boogaloo Shrimp, you had Shabadoo. They would all come to Uncle Jam's Army. They wanted to stage, they wanted to showcase their talent.
People ask me if I'm standing there, I'm pointing like this. And if my head is not turned that way, I don't call that point. If you only point when you look in the direction where you point. If I'm locking, I'm doing this, I'm turning my head, I look at the direction I'm locking. It's part of the dance, it's called locking. Locking means locking your joints. I might double up and play with it, but I'm extending different things when I'm doing it. That's the essence of the dance.
Don Campbell, one of the most fantastic, not only dancers, choreographers, distinctive, one-of-a-kind individual that you meet very rarely in show business, that you know is a special individual from the time you meet him.
Respect to Don Campbell, the father of my style, mentor, even greater than last.
He made the whole thing work in a time before there was the internet, where he could make a video that would go viral and people would see him all over the world. He built that from the ground up, dance by dance. He was by and large the most talented member of the group, but everybody in the group had a unique talent. And that's what I remember when I created the LA Breakers. I wasn't looking for street dancers, I was looking for the best breakers.
He has heavily influenced us and me personally is the fact that he allowed us to have an origin of dance. We weren't overwhelmed by an interpretation of someone else's culture, i.e. a New York culture versus an LA culture.
But I came to New York City first. New York think they're the leaders in everything. They always do that. There, when you talk about new dances and all stuff, New York is a place that I always say that most of the dances come out. But I proved another thing, that locking and popping and stuff, that came from LA. You know, it came from dances, Fresno, Los Angeles, places around like here.
There came a point, actually, because breakdancing was a newly evolved art form, that pop lockers and breakers is just a small moment in time, actually did not flow well together.
But New Yorkers always claim to like B-boy, they call it B-boy, B-girl, which is breaking. And I'll tell you another thing, don't call nothing breaking. They go crazy, they'll get mad at you. You gotta tell them is it B-girl or up rock.
What people want to call now is musicality. And they want to judge each other with that. And that's how they grade each other out, through musicality. There was a time when Non-Stop, myself, Freeze, Tony T, we would dance on beat using various beats and various information from the song and transferring that into our spirit and out through our body. And people would talk shit about it.
I included pop lockers in my LA Breakers. I was the first group. New York City Breakers didn't have people who could pop. They had people who borrowed from pop locking, from what they saw, but the strongest pop lockers, the most creative ones, were always here on the West Coast. And that basically created a dilemma, because when breakdancing came out, it seemed like it was going to kill pop locking. But obviously, pop locking just wasn't like an old dance and a new dance comes out and everybody starts doing a new dance. It had evolved into an art form.
John Campbell and his locking style, his dancing style is what rooted us as far as our independent and our power source to stay focused on our contemporary political problems as far as how we express them on the West Coast. We had a heavy gang culture out here. We also had a way of expressing ourselves against the police and even each other.
We done that, man, from '74. You know, with Shabba-Doo and all that, the breakers and the pop lockers and stuff, you know, from coming from doing your booties and all that from B-boys and everything. Then when we went to hip-hop, was in really like '79, really got into the hip-hop era of breaking. Yeah. Right. Because when I got a hold on to breaking, it was like '79. Okay. And we started break dancing and getting the tapes from New York because we was already popping. We was already doing it. We was like already when that was pop locking it. Pop what you got. Pop what you got. We was doing that in the '70s, early in the '70s, popping and locking. Mm-hmm. But then when breaking came, that was a whole new phenomenon. That was hip hop. Like you said, graffiti, scratching, MCing, scratching, rapping, graffiti, break dancing, and we didn't go. We went on the walls after a while, but we started doing our own shirts, own jackets with our names on. We was Mechanical Musketeers, pop locking. I remember that, man. I got paperwork still from '79. Wow. The Battle of the DJs back then.
DJ Dr. Funkenstein here from Uncle Jam's Army and EIN Radio, and I'm kicking it here with the homie, man, Chili Chill from the Lynch Mob. Chili Chill, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
That's right, that's right. Tell me a little bit about yourself, sir.
Man, just always keeping the West Coast, man. Yo-Yo's original DJ, originally from the Lynch Mob, you know what I'm saying? Giving a shout out to all the members of the Lynch Mob.
And I must tell Chili Chill this, Yo-Yo is my neighbor. Okay, I know her moms and everything from way back in the day, off 106 and Fig, man. How did you get started with the Lynch Mob, man?
I started off being a DJ.
Right.
Before I was a producer.
Okay.
Bobcat basically pulled me in.
I heard.
Bobcat.
Yeah, Bobcat,
Shout out
yeah.
to DJ Pooh, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, now see that. That's West Coast.
Those are all the homies, man.
That's right.
Everybody, man. We all got out. Aladdin. Everybody, see? Ralph M, Joe Cooley, everybody.
6 in the morning, police at my door. Fresh to be the squeak across my bathroom floor.
I went to a rap contest at the Carolina West. KDAY sponsored a rap contest. The first week, I was rapping and I beat all these guys except this guy named DJ Tracy. It was me and him. They couldn't decide on a clear winner, so they put their hand over DJ Tracy's head and the crowd screamed loud. And in my head, they didn't scream as loud. DJ Tracy had long hair, he was light skinned, he was cute, he had the pretty boy look and everything. And I really felt in my heart that that's why he won. They did acknowledge, well, we want to have you guys back next week. I recognized that to beat him, when they said they're gonna have the second week, I had to do something different. So I drew upon my DJ skills, the things I used to do in the clubs. And I said the same rap, he did the same rap, but at the end of my rap, I wrote this line, which now is a standard line, but at the time that I wrote it, it was revolutionary. If the party's over here and the party's over there, everybody in the house say, hell yeah. Something I used to do in the nightclubs. I put that at the very end of my rap, and the crowd exploded. The guy that I beat, DJ Tracy, later changed his name to Ice-T.
Ice-T is the father of gangster rap. Ice-T grew up near Leimert Park. Ice got his break one day when he was spitting his rhymes to a few girls over at the Good Fred barbershop. Across town near downtown LA in MacArthur Park was an infamous club where Ice became well known, called The Radio.
The Radio was a spot that The Glove and Ice-T had, and Beatmaster Vic, Ice-T, was one of Ice-T's drummers in Body Count. He introduced me to Ice-T years ago. I don't remember the very first day I met him, but I actually met Ice through Beatmaster Vic, rest in peace. He had told me about the radio because I knew about him, and when I went, that changed my life. That's why Ice-T let me have an opportunity to rap on stage, and that just, man, that did it, man. I was like a kid in a candy store. I told my mother, I told my whole family that was something I wanted to do, get involved in this hip hop.
Ice-T was co-signed by Big Daddy Kane and other major East Coast rappers. Ice-T's first album, Rhyme Pays, sold 700,000 with no video. His album was the first to display the parental advisory sticker.
In the early 80s, we was at the playpen. Me and Sir Jam, we was in my station wagon. We had we called it the Uncle Jam's Army Mobile. And we pulled up, and there was a lot of people in front of the place. As soon as we got out, I seen Ice-T. And Ice-T was talking and everything, and next thing you know, I shut the door, I went around my car, and Sir Jam was like, yo man, there go Ice-T. I said, yeah. I went behind Ice-T, and Ice-T was talking about hitting somebody, and I didn't say nothing. So then after that, I noticed he reached in his pocket, and he pulled out a 32, and he dropped it. I looked at Sir Jam looked at me, and I picked it up, and I emptied the shells and put the shells in my pocket, and I grabbed Ice-T, and I told him, I said, nah, man, you can't do that here, dude. Come on, man, we here to have a good time. And he was like, yeah, man, you know, you right, man. Okay, man, I put it up, man, I put it up. And then he said, where the shells at, man? I said, I got the shells. I'll get rid of them, don't trip, you know. So he, you know, he put his little heater up, and then he came back, and, you know, and we partied and everything. And that whole night turned out cool. That was just real wild.
On that particular situation was crazy because when me and a bunch of guys that used to come to the radio came back and it was under a different name and it wasn't Club Radio and it was Radiotron, a lot of us was standoffish. You know, we were like, man, we're not gonna come here no more. But you know, I wound up talking to Carmelo and I, you know, was the one passing out the flyers and getting people back there because Radiotron wouldn't have probably been kicking like it started kicking if we didn't get out there and grind and do that street promotion and passing out flyers. Because I did that for free. Carmelo would give me the box of flyers and I would sometimes get my ass whooped when I came home because I would lie to my mother and tell my mother I was somewhere else. But I was so adamant about being a part of that movement because I remember it was the radio and I wanted to be like Ice. I'm like, man, I want this to be my thing. So when they gave me the opportunity to be the MC there, I didn't care about money. I just wanted to be a part of something.
The Army came out, Dial a Freak, you know. When Egypt came out with Yes, 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 you know, all that bit. And they was doing their thing. During my time from 77 to 1985, when I left, the game had changed big time. We gave 2 dances at the sports arena. The first one, if you ask me, it should be in the Guinness Book of World Records when it comes to one night for a couple of hours and you have over 10,000 people on the dance floor. Right now, we're about to do a photo shoot here at the one, the only, where we made history, Uncle Jam's Army, that is, with 10,000 people on the dance floor. LA Sports Arena. They're getting ready to tear this bad boy down, so we got to come up here and take some photos because it is history.
What's up? Hey!
What's going on, man?
Good, man.
Yo, everybody, check this out, man. See, this is a man I haven't seen since in the 80s, all right? It's been a long time.
I'm about to take it way back. It's super exclusive. This man right here is one of my first all-time role models. Y'all don't understand in terms of everything I've done in hip hop, it started out with me idolizing this brother right here.
This is one of our security guards that been to all our dances. My man Lamont, tell him about Roger and how we was doing it at Uncle Jam's Army.
Oh man, the first time ever a black man ever came and sold the sports arena out on a dance. Uncle Jam Army just took over.
I always bow down to this brother right here. First generation Uncle Jam's Army, second generation Uncle Jam's Army. We even got 3 generations Uncle Jam's Army. DJ, biggest party promoters in the history of the world. America, y'all don't know, worldwide.
Now at around this time, we had new recruits coming left and right. The new ones were Silky D, DJ Kit Kat of the Cali Cat crew, Greg Brouchard, the Egyptian Lover.
People would come from as far as the UK to see Egypt. Yeah. Trust me on that one.
DJ Bobcat and DJ Battle Cat.
Bobcat said, let's start another crew called the California Cat Crew. So it was me, him, and we got Battle Cat. We was going around, people was knowing our name. Then we go to Reseda. We had Wildcat, Scratch Cat. It was just all kind of cats started popping up, and California Cat Crew was out.
You know what was so unique about all the different DJs? We wasn't allowed to play the same records, and we had to have a unique style. We couldn't copy each other's exact same style.
The big one was when all the local promoters, Z-Car, Disco Construction, LSD,
right.
somebody else though.
It's y'all.
And us. Unique Dreams Entertainment. Okay.
Right.
We all got together as young black men, and agreed on something, and it was successful.
But wait, because I was helping collect money at the door, and then all of a sudden, I remember at the LA Convention Center, the marshal was there, and the marshal was talking about, we're gonna shut it down, and I kind of, was ear hustling. I heard him talking about we gotta shut it down. At that point, we went to the lines, and it's like, come on in, whatever you got in your hands is good.
Thanks to Jordan Clayton for letting us borrow his houses all those
Roger's
years.
father. Roger was charging a quarter to get in. Okay. We lived in that neighborhood too.
Right. So
I started hanging out with Roger on 17. 34 years. You knew him before that.
Yeah.
Charles is always there. Yeah.
I'm always right at him, man. Every time we do a new project, what got to the top was we started doing our own radio takes on the radio for our dancers in our own voice, for background music. That was unique. Nobody else was doing that. So now we get on the radio doing flyers and posters. All of a sudden, boom! One day, we built Alpine Village. Once that we maxed that place out, that's all she wrote.
We leveraged in with $2,500. Now it was a union house. I can't let y'all see this picture. It was a union house, so we paid a lot on the back end. But we leveraged in here because they were having so many problems. And we had to have a bigger place. It was the perfect marriage, man. Wasn't it? It was the perfect marriage. I mean, Long Beach really said, we like you guys, we just can't have you guys share the place. Coliseum, same thing.
We did Amaduez, Long Beach State. We did Sports Arena. We did Pasadena Civic.
Daryl Pierce, call me Big Dad, LA Posse. Started with Uncle Jam's Army. Learned the art of street promotions. Probably more than anything. That's what we all learned was street promotion. I'm surprised, ain't no flyers and cars out today.
Just pulling it all together with Gid and Roger, and
we knew it was gonna hit the minute. Just like when we got the name Uncle Jam's Army, we knew it was gonna be a hit.
One of our key elements is that me and Dwayne, partner Dwayne Simon, we were the first ones to go to New York and actually, get signed to Def Jam Records with an artist we had by the name of Breeze. So we helped bridge that gap between East Coast and West Coast music.
But it all started with an idea and no knowledge on how to do it. We taught ourselves through failure.
I grew allegiance to the flag of Unique Dreams Entertainment and Uncle Jam's Army, and to the republic for which it stands. We are one nation under a groove, indivisible with the liberty to funk for all. God bless Chocolate City and its vanilla suburbs.
We out. Peace. Yeah, it's a party, y'all. It's gonna be a party, y'all. Party, y'all. Yeah, it's a party, y'all. And this is a party, y'all. A hood function. Yeah, it's a party, y'all. It's gonna be a party, y'all. Party, y'all. Yeah, it's a party, y'all. And this is a party, y'all. A hood function. When I'm at the party, all the girls start coming. Till the mellows in the back blowing weed like a trumpet. Pouring out liquor to the homies like it's nothing. With a pistol in my hip in case I gotta start dumping. Face hitting, yeah, that there's something. It's a hood thing, but everybody dressing like they clubbing. Yeah, I got it jumping like Jack with these raps. And I keep the dice skipping like a CD that's scratched. There's a lot of things that need to be in discussion. I think these little niggas might need a reintroduction. So when they start to talking and their gums start to come, and I'ma pull this here, he had a whole party